The village was small and quiet. It's the kind of place where mornings began with the sound of roosters and evenings ended with oil lamps glowing softly outside mud houses. Life there moved slowly, and most people knew each other by face, if not by name. Nothing unusual ever happened in this village, and that was exactly why a young boy was brought there. He arrived one early morning in a plain car that raised dust on the narrow road. The car did not look expensive, but the men inside were careful and alert. The boy sat quietly in the back seat, looking out the window. He was used to big houses, guards, and city noise, but now all he saw were fields, trees, and simple homes. He did not complain. He had been taught to stay calm, even when afraid. To the world, he was just a distant relative of an old village teacher. But in truth, he was the only son of one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. His father had many enemies. Some wanted his money, some wanted revenge, and some simply wanted to hurt him in the worst way possible through his child. When threats became serious, the father made a painful decision. He sent his son away, far from the city, far from danger, or so he hoped. The boy was told to live like an ordinary child. No guards nearby. No special treatment. No mention of his real life. He agreed, though his heart was heavy. He missed his father, his home, and the safety he once disliked. But he also understood why this had to be done. In the same village lived a girl who had grown up with very little but learned to stand strong. She lived with her grandmother in a small house near the fields. Her parents had passed away years ago, leaving her to grow up faster than other children. Life had not been kind to her, but it had made her brave. She helped in the fields, fetched water, and still found time to attend the small village school. She noticed the boy on his first day at school. He was quiet and polite, too careful with his words. His clothes were simple, but they looked new. He listened more than he spoke, and kept to himself. Many children tried to talk to him, but he stayed distant, as if afraid of saying the wrong thing. Over time, she began to see small things that did not fit. He never spoke about his past. He never invited anyone to where he lived. And sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, his eyes showed fear, not of school or exams, but of something much deeper. One afternoon, she found him sitting alone under a tree after school. He was staring at the road, lost in thought. She walked up to him and asked if he was waiting for someone. He shook his head and gave a small smile. That was the beginning of their quiet friendship. They started walking home together. She talked about village life, her grandmother, and her dreams of becoming something more than what life expected of her. He listened carefully. When she asked about him, he answered in short sentences, choosing his words wisely. He said he had lived in many places and did not like to talk about the past. She respected that. Days turned into weeks. The boy slowly felt safer around her. For the first time since leaving the city, he laughed freely. He helped her carry water, even though his hands were not used to such work. He learned village games and tried hard not to stand out. Still, deep inside, he never forgot why he was there. Unknown to both of them, danger had not disappeared. Far away, men were still searching. They followed old clues, asked questions, and traced movements. Someone had talked. Someone always did. The quiet village was no longer as hidden as it seemed. One evening, as the sun set behind the fields, the girl noticed a strange vehicle pass through the village. It did not belong there. The driver looked around too carefully, as if memorizing faces and houses. She felt uneasy, but said nothing. That night, the boy could not sleep. He felt the same fear he had felt back in the city, the feeling that told him trouble was close. He stood near the window, looking out into the dark, hoping he was wrong. In a small village that had known peace for generations, fate had begun to move. Two young lives were slowly being pulled into a storm neither of them had chosen. And the choices they would soon make would change everything. The village continued its quiet rhythm, but the girl could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. She noticed strangers appearing at odd times, asking strange questions, and watching certain houses more carefully than necessary. They were not like the usual travelers or visitors who came to sell goods or seek work. There was an intensity in their eyes that made her skin crawl. one afternoon. As she walked along the dusty road after school, she spotted a group of men talking near the edge of the village. They did not belong there. She slowed down, pretending to tie her shoes, but listened carefully. Their conversation was low, almost secretive, but she could catch some words. Words that chilled her to the bone. Someone wanted to find a boy in the village. Someone had planned to harm him. Her heart raced, but she knew she could not panic. She thought about the boy she had been walking home with every day. He had trusted her, laughed with her, and shared small pieces of his life. The idea that anyone could hurt him made her feel helpless. But she was not someone who ran away from danger. She had faced challenges before, and this felt like another test. That evening, she decided to warn him. She waited until school was over and he stepped out, looking around nervously as he always did. "Hey, I think someone is looking for you," she said, trying to sound casual. He froze, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "I didn't want to worry you," he said softly, but she shook her head. "You should have told me sooner." "I want to help," she insisted. He hesitated, torn between fear and trust. Finally, he nodded. Together they walked home, taking less traveled paths, avoiding the main road. She kept glancing over her shoulder, alert for anything unusual. He walked silently beside her, his hands clenched in small fists, unsure of what to do next. Over the next few days, they started noticing small signs of danger. Footprints near the fields, strangers asking about the boy, and unfamiliar cars driving past slowly, as if checking every house. The girl's instincts told her the threat was getting closer, and the boy's unease grew with each passing hour. They needed a plan. One evening, while fetching water from the well, the girl overheard more of the strangers' conversation. They spoke about a plan, mentioning a time and a place where they intended to strike. Fear shot through her, but she did not let it paralyze her. She remembered the times she had faced hardships before and knew that action was the only way to survive. She ran back to the boy's temporary home, explaining what she had heard. His eyes widened as he listened, realizing how serious the threat had become. They could not go to the authorities because they could not reveal his real identity without risking more attention. They had to rely on quick thinking and courage. The girl suggested they stay vigilant and use the village's hidden paths. She knew secret trails, old tunnels under abandoned houses, and shortcuts through fields where no one would expect them. She taught him how to move quietly, how to observe without being seen, and how to trust his instincts. The boy absorbed every word, realizing that her knowledge of the village might be their only shield. At night, they would sit by the small river near the edge of the village. The boy would speak about his city life, his father, and the burden of being constantly watched. The girl listened patiently, never judging, always encouraging. Her bravery gave him strength, and her unwavering belief that they could survive gave him hope. It was a strange bond that grew out of fear and necessity, but it was real and powerful. Days turned into nights, and the tension in the village grew. The strangers were getting bolder, testing the waters, trying to figure out how much the villagers knew. Some villagers noticed the newcomers, but ignored them, thinking they were harmless travelers. Only the girl saw the danger clearly and refused to stay silent. One afternoon, as the boy practiced moving quietly through the fields under the girl's guidance, they noticed a shadow moving near the trees. The girl froze, signaling him to stay low. The shadow came closer, and she realized it was one of the strangers, scouting. Their hearts pounded, but they did not panic. Instead, she led him through a narrow ditch, hidden by tall grass, and they escaped without being seen. The boy's admiration for her courage grew with every step. The girl realized that the threat was not just about fear. It was about survival, quick thinking, and trust. She understood that their only way to stay safe was to stay ahead of the danger and not let anyone predict their moves. The boy learned that bravery was not just about fighting, but about making smart choices when the odds seemed impossible. By now, they were more than just friends. They were partners in survival, relying on each other's strengths. The boy had city knowledge, careful thinking, and an understanding of threats, while the girl had courage, local knowledge, and quick instincts. Together, They formed a team that could face challenges bigger than themselves. The village remained calm on the surface, but underneath a storm was brewing. The girl and the boy knew that sooner or later, the strangers would make their move. They could feel it in the tension of the air, the way the wind seemed to carry whispers of danger, and the way every rustle in the fields made them pause. And then one evening, while they were planning their next steps near the edge of the river, a stranger was spotted much closer than before. This time, there was no chance to hide easily. The boy's heart raced and fear threatened to take over, but the girl placed her hand on his shoulder, steady and calm. "We can do this," she said, her voice firm. "Stay with me. Don't panic. We will find a way." That night, as darkness covered the village, they prepared themselves. They knew that the coming days would test their courage like never before, but together, they also realized something important. No matter how powerful the threat, no matter how dangerous the strangers were, courage, intelligence, and trust could change the outcome. And so, the quiet village, once a place of peace and routine, became a battleground of wits, bravery, and determination. The boy and the girl, united by trust and necessity, stood ready to face the storm that was coming, unaware that their courage would soon be tested in ways they could never imagine. The village had never seen anything like it before. What had been quiet and peaceful became tense with every passing day. The girl and the boy moved cautiously, knowing that danger was only a step behind. The strangers were clever, watching, waiting, testing the villagers, and trying to find the boy. But the girl's knowledge of every path, field, and shortcut became their shield. One night, the girl noticed movement near the boy's temporary home. She quickly woke him, whispering that someone had come close. Their hearts raced. The boy had never been this scared before, but he trusted her completely. Together, they planned a quick escape. They would leave through a secret path behind the storage shed, a path that led through the tall grass and into the dense forest. It was risky, but staying meant certain danger as they moved quietly through the night. The girl guided him, her steps sure and fast. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a branch made them pause, but she never let fear control her. She reminded the boy to breathe, to think, and to follow her lead. The boy, though terrified, followed her instructions perfectly, learning the importance of calm in the face of danger. Suddenly, they heard voices. The strangers had followed them closer than expected. The girl's mind raced. She needed a plan. She spotted an old abandoned hut hidden by trees and led the boy inside. They crouched in the dark, barely daring to breathe. The strangers passed by, unaware of their hiding place. And finally the girl exhaled, relieved but still alert. They stayed hidden until the first light of dawn, then moved carefully toward a safe part of the forest. The boy began to understand the girl's bravery. He had faced danger in the city before, but never like this. Here there were no guards, no help, no phones, no easy way out. Only courage and trust kept them alive. Over the next few days, they planned to outsmart the strangers. The girl knew the forest better than anyone and taught the boy how to set small signs and signals to know if someone was nearby. They learned to travel quietly, to avoid leaving footprints, and to always have an escape route. Each day the boy grew stronger, more confident, and more reliant on her guidance. One afternoon, they noticed a stranger waiting near the river where they often went to rest. The girl realized he was scouting, trying to figure out where they lived and when they would leave. She whispered to the boy that they would need to act fast. They could not confront him directly. It would be too dangerous. Instead, they created a small diversion. They made a trail that led away from the village and through a hidden passage along the riverbank. The stranger fell for it. Following the false trail while the two slipped safely into the forest, the boy was amazed by her quick thinking. He realized that courage alone was not enough. It had to be paired with intelligence. And she had both in abundance. He also began to understand something else. Bravery did not always mean fighting. Sometimes it meant staying calm, thinking quickly, and making smart choices under pressure. That night, As they rested in a small clearing, the boy shared his fears openly for the first time. He spoke of the city, his father, and the enemies who wanted to hurt him. The girl listened carefully, offering words of comfort and strength. He realized that, without her, he would be lost, and without trust, they would never survive. Their bond deepened, no longer just about friendship, but about survival and understanding. But the danger was not finished. The strangers had learned from their mistakes and became more determined. They were clever, patient, and cruel. They started asking villagers indirect questions about new faces, tracking anything unusual. One afternoon, the girl overheard them discussing a plan to capture the boy that very night. She ran to warn him immediately, their hearts pounding as the sun began to set. That evening, they prepared. They knew confrontation was inevitable. They chose a spot near the edge of the village, where the forest opened into a small field, giving them a chance to move freely. The girl instructed the boy to stay close and trust her. As darkness fell, shadows moved in the distance. The attackers approached cautiously, expecting an easy victory. The girl acted swiftly. Using her knowledge of the terrain, she created noises in one direction, throwing stones and rustling bushes, while she led the boy in the opposite direction through hidden paths only she knew. The strangers were momentarily confused, giving the two enough time to move farther away. The boy's heart raced, but he began to feel a strange thrill. He was learning, surviving, and discovering courage within himself he had never known. Hours later, as they reached a small clearing far from the village, they paused to rest. The boy looked at the girl with newfound admiration. He had always believed that protection came from power, money, and guards. But now he realized something powerful. True courage could come from anyone, even a simple village girl who knew how to act without fear. They knew the battle was not over. The strangers would continue to search, and the boy's life was still in danger. But they had taken the first step in turning fear into action, panic into planning, and danger into survival. Their teamwork, courage, and trust had given them an advantage that could not be measured by weapons or strength alone. That night, as they lay under the stars, the boy felt a strange peace. He knew the girl's bravery had changed everything, and that with her, he could face any challenge ahead. The forest was dark, the threats were real, but together, they were no longer powerless. They were ready for whatever came next, knowing that courage, intelligence, and trust could turn even the darkest moments into a fight they could win. The night had been long and tense, but dawn brought a new sense of hope. The girl and the boy had spent hours in the forest hiding, moving cautiously and watching for any signs of the attackers. Each step was deliberate, and every sound was analyzed. The boy, once fearful and hesitant, had begun to trust his own instincts. Guided by the girl's courage and knowledge, by mid-morning, the girl decided they could return to a part of the village that was less exposed. She led the boy along hidden trails, past fields, and around the houses that had been carefully observed by the strangers. They stayed low, crouching behind bushes and moving quietly so that no one would notice them. The boy marveled at her skill. She had lived in the village all her life, and that experience now made her a guardian, a protector. They returned to a small, abandoned shed near the edge of the village. It was quiet and forgotten, a perfect hiding place. They rested there, drinking water and catching their breath. The boy realized how much he had learned in the past few days. He had learned patience, courage, and the importance of trust. The girl had taught him more than survival. She had shown him that bravery was about action and responsibility, not just fearlessness. Meanwhile, far away, the boy's father had learned that his son's location was under threat. He immediately mobilized a small team of trusted people to ensure his son's safety. They worked carefully, avoiding any action that might reveal his whereabouts to the attackers. It was a tense operation requiring precision, patience, and secrecy. Back in the village, the girl noticed some villagers behaving strangely. Whispers, furtive glances, and subtle movements suggested that the stranger's influence was growing. She knew they could not stay in the village forever. She needed a plan that would keep the boy safe until help arrived. She and the boy spent the day strategizing. Using the knowledge of the village, the fields, and the forest to create escape routes and safe zones. That evening, while they were checking their surroundings near the river, a group of armed men appeared. The girl froze for a moment, then quickly guided the boy to a hidden path through the tall grass. The strangers were scouts, checking for movement, but they did not see the two of them. The girl's calm thinking had saved them once again. The boy's admiration for her courage grew, and he silently vowed to trust her instincts completely. Hours later, the distant sound of vehicles and organized movement reached the forest. The girl realized it was help arriving. She whispered to the boy to stay hidden until it was safe. Soon, the father's team entered the village, moving quickly and quietly to intercept the attackers. They captured several men who had been sent to follow the boy, and the village began to feel a sense of relief. With the immediate threat subdued, the father came to the village. He had arranged for the boy's safety, but seeing the courage of the girl who had protected him firsthand moved him deeply. He learned everything from the villagers and, especially, from the girl herself. She had faced danger without hesitation, risking her life to save someone she barely knew. Her courage and quick thinking had ensured that no harm came to his son. The boy's true identity was revealed to the village, and there was astonishment and admiration. The villagers had never imagined that someone from their small, quiet home could be so important and influential. But what impressed them even more was the bravery of a simple girl who had protected him with nothing but her knowledge, courage, and determination. The father expressed deep gratitude. He offered the girl opportunities that she had never dreamed of. Education, support, and a chance to improve her life were now available to her. She accepted humbly, never seeking recognition, but understanding that her life was about to change. The bond between the girl and the boy had grown strong, rooted in trust, bravery, and shared experience. In the days that followed, the village slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Children played, farmers worked in the fields, and the quiet life returned. Yet everyone knew that something extraordinary had happened. A fearless village girl had stood up to danger and changed the course of a life that could have been lost. Her actions became a story of courage and hope, whispered among villagers, and remembered as an example of what bravery and trust can achieve. The boy stayed in the village for a short while longer, learning more about resilience, friendship, and the strength of human spirit. He and the girl continued to walk together, talk, and share small joys. He had learned lessons that no wealth could teach, and she had proven that courage could exist in anyone. No matter their background, the attackers were gone, the boy was safe, and the village had witnessed an event that changed their perception of ordinary courage. The girl's bravery had not only protected a life, but it also inspired an entire community. The father knew that no amount of security could replace the instinct, intelligence, and heart that had kept his son alive. And the boy knew that a bond built on trust, fearlessness, and shared danger was unbreakable. As the sun set over the village, casting golden light over fields and houses, the girl and the boy sat together quietly. The danger was over, but the lessons remained. Courage, trust, and intelligence could overcome threats that seemed impossible. And even in a world filled with power, money, and influence, a simple act of bravery could make the greatest difference of all. The village slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but the air was filled with a sense of awe and gratitude. What had started as a quiet, ordinary place had become the scene of courage and survival that would be remembered for years. The boy's safety was ensured, and the attackers were captured. But the story did not end with danger. Ended with lessons, growth, and change. The girl, once just another villager, became a figure of respect. The villagers, who had watched her courage from a distance, now understood the depth of her bravery. She had faced danger without hesitation, led the boy through paths unknown to him, and protected a life that could have been lost. Her actions spoke louder than words, showing that true strength comes not from wealth or power, but from determination, intelligence, and a fearless heart. The father, deeply moved by the girl's bravery, met her with sincere gratitude. He offered her education, opportunities, and support to pursue a better life. She accepted humbly, understanding that while the recognition was meaningful, Her actions had been driven by instinct and compassion, not expectation. She knew the true reward was knowing she had saved a life and inspired those around her. The boy, now safe and more aware of the world outside his sheltered life, learned invaluable lessons. He understood the importance of courage, trust, and friendship. Money and protection could not replace the instincts, intelligence, bravery that had guided him through the most dangerous moments of his young life. The bond between him and the girl had grown strong, rooted in shared experience, mutual respect, and trust that went beyond words. In the village, the story spread quietly at first, then more openly. Neighbors, elders, and children all shared the tale of how a simple village girl had changed the course of a life. She became a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that courage is not measured by background, wealth, or status, but by action when it matters most. Children began to look up to her, inspired by the idea that anyone could make a difference. The boy's father ensured that the village received some help as well. New resources, small improvements, and educational opportunities were provided. Not as charity, but as a recognition of the girl's bravery and the village's support. The small community, once quiet and overlooked, now had the chance to thrive. It was a lasting reminder that acts of courage can ripple outward, changing more than just the immediate situation. As days turned into weeks, the girl continued her daily life, but with new confidence and possibilities. She went to school with renewed determination, learning not just for herself, but for the future she now knew was within reach. The boy stayed close for a while, learning the value of courage and humility. Their conversations were no longer about fear, but about hope, dreams, and the possibilities that lay ahead. The bond between them remained strong, a silent promise of friendship that had been forged in danger and strengthened by trust. The boy learned to face challenges with a steady heart, and the girl saw the power of her own courage reflected in the life she had helped save. Together, they had proven that even in the darkest moments, hope, intelligence, and bravery could illuminate the path forward. The village itself seemed different. The small homes and fields remained the same, but the people carried a new sense of pride and inspiration. Stories of courage and survival were shared at gatherings, passed from elders to children, reminding everyone that ordinary people could perform extraordinary acts when circumstances demanded it. The girl's bravery became a tale of empowerment, a living example that fear can be faced, and danger can be overcome. Time passed, and the boy returned to the city. But he carried with him lessons that could not be taught in schools or through wealth. He understood the strength of the human spirit, the power of trust, and the importance of valuing those who act with courage and compassion. He also knew that he would never forget the girl who had changed everything, who had guided him through the darkest nights and the most frightening moments. The girl remained in the village, but her life was transformed. Opportunities for education, growth, and learning opened new doors. She continued to live with her grandmother, but now with a sense of purpose and recognition. Her story became a bridge between ordinary lives and extraordinary courage, showing that anyone, regardless of status or circumstance, could make a difference in the end. The village returned to its quiet rhythm, but it had been forever changed. A simple act of bravery had not only saved a life, but had inspired a community. The boy's life was forever altered, shaped by lessons of courage, trust, and the importance of human connection. And the girl's life, once constrained by circumstance, now held the promise of a future built on her own strength and determination. As the sun set over the fields and the small houses, the village glowed with more than light, it glowed with hope, pride, and the knowledge that courage could transform lives. The boy and the girl had faced danger, survived, and emerged stronger. Their story would be told for years to come, a reminder that bravery, intelligence, and a fearless heart could change everything, and that even the smallest voice can make the greatest difference, even after the danger had passed. Life in the village did not return entirely to the way it had been. The boy had returned to the city, but he visited often, learning more from the girl, from the people who had helped them, and from the lessons that courage had brought to the small community. Every visit reminded him of how different life could be outside the walls of wealth and protection, and how much strength came from ordinary people who did extraordinary things. The girl had grown in ways she had never imagined. Her days were filled with learning and responsibilities, but her confidence was stronger than ever. She now understood that bravery was not a single act, but a way of living, helping someone in need, standing up to danger, or simply making decisions with thought and courage had transformed her into someone the village admired. Not for wealth or status, but for character and heart. The boy's father continued to support the village quietly. He built a small library and some classrooms, so the children could have access to knowledge and opportunities. The villagers were grateful, but they also knew that the real change had come from the girl, whose actions had inspired the improvements. She had shown them that one person's courage could ripple outward, changing more lives than they could ever imagine. The boy himself learned valuable lessons in humility and responsibility. He realized that his father's wealth and power could not protect him from everything, and that his own strength and the trust he placed in others were equally important. Each visit to the village reminded him of the moments of fear, courage, and teamwork that had defined the time he spent there. He often reflected on the nights spent hiding, the strategies they had developed, and the unwavering bravery of the girl who had guided him. Over time, their bond deepened further. It was not the type of bond formed by wealth or status, but by shared experiences and mutual respect. They often walked through the fields talking about life, hopes, and dreams. The boy had learned to see the world through her eyes, appreciating simplicity, honesty, and the power of human spirit. She had taught him lessons that no classroom or city life could ever provide. The villagers also noticed the subtle changes. Children began helping each other more, neighbors looked out for one another, and the community seemed closer than before. Stories of bravery and survival were shared at gatherings, emphasizing the importance of courage, trust, and quick thinking. The girl became a symbol not just of heroism, but of hope, demonstrating that anyone, regardless of background, could make a difference. One day, as the girl was walking along the familiar paths she had guided the boy through during their dangerous nights, she came across a new challenge. A neighboring village was struggling with floods that had damaged homes and fields. Without hesitation, she organized a small group to help, drawing on the confidence and leadership she had developed during the earlier events. She led the villagers to assist their neighbors, reinforcing the idea that courage extended beyond personal survival. Her actions inspired others to contribute, proving that leadership could come from the most unexpected places. The boy visited during this time and observed her leading the effort. He realized that bravery was not limited to facing direct threats. It also meant taking responsibility, helping others, and acting even when there was no personal gain. He began to see how much he had learned from her, understanding that life's challenges were not always about wealth or status, but about character and determination. As months passed, the girl pursued her education with new vigor, while also taking on small leadership roles in the village. She helped organize classes for children, taught basic skills to those in need, and continued to guide anyone facing difficulties. Her courage and intelligence were no longer confined to moments of danger. They became part of everyday life, demonstrating that heroism could be consistent, quiet, and transformative. The boy's visits continued, each time bringing more than just stories from the city. He shared knowledge, resources, and support that benefited the village. But he also remained a student of the girl's courage. Together, they worked on small projects, combining city knowledge with village wisdom. Their partnership became a testament to what could happen when trust, respect, and courage were combined. The story of the girl and the boy spread beyond the village, reaching neighboring areas. People marveled at how a simple girl had saved a child from great danger and then used her courage to inspire positive change. Her story was shared in schools, among community groups, and even in local gatherings, not as a tale of fame, but as a lesson in bravery, intelligence, and compassion. The boy, now more mature and aware, often reflected on the events that had brought him to the village. He understood the true meaning of courage, the value of trust, and the impact that one individual could have. He realized that his life, once shielded by wealth, had been truly protected and enriched by someone without status, without privilege, but with an unwavering heart. As years passed, the village prospered in small, meaningful ways. Education improved, opportunities increased, and the sense of community grew stronger. Yet, the most important legacy was the lesson of courage and resilience that the girl had instilled. Her actions showed that even ordinary lives could achieve extraordinary impact through courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. In the evenings, when the sun cast golden light over the fields and the houses, the girl and the boy would sit quietly together, reflecting on their journey. The danger was long past, but the lessons remained. They had faced fear, survived against threats, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Their story had begun with danger, but had evolved into a lasting testament to bravery, trust, and human spirit. Ultimately, life in the village had been transformed. The girl's courage had changed her life, the boy's life, and the lives of everyone around them. The story was one of hope, showing that bravery was not reserved for the powerful or wealthy, but could be found in the heart of anyone willing to act with courage, intelligence, and compassion. And as the village continued its quiet rhythm, it did so with a deeper understanding that true courage could change destinies and inspire generations to come, even though the boy had returned to the city. His connection to the village and the girl remained strong. Their bond had grown deeper over time, rooted in trust, courage, and shared experiences. Every visit he made reminded him of the lessons he had learned, that bravery could be found in the most unexpected places, that intelligence and quick thinking could overcome danger, and that true strength came from acting with compassion and determination. The girl continued to inspire the village. She took on new responsibilities, organizing small projects, helping with education, and guiding younger children. Her courage was no longer measured by moments of immediate danger, but by consistent, everyday acts of leadership. She taught villagers how to work together, solve problems, and face challenges without fear. Her presence became a symbol of hope, showing that even ordinary individuals could create extraordinary impact. As the seasons changed, the village grew stronger. People helped one another more, shared knowledge, and became more aware of the power of community. The boy's father quietly supported these improvements, sending resources and knowledge to help build a stronger, more self-reliant village. However, he always made sure to highlight the girl's role, understanding that her courage had been the spark that ignited the transformation. The boy, now older and wiser, applied the lessons he had learned in the city. He began to understand that leadership was not about power or authority, but about empathy, courage, and the ability to act decisively. He started small initiatives to help children from underprivileged backgrounds, inspired by the girl's example. He remembered the nights they had spent hiding, strategizing, and surviving, realizing that those experiences had taught him more than any classroom or city education ever could. The girl's story began to spread beyond the village. Nearby communities heard about her courage and her ability to lead and inspire change. People admired how a simple girl with no wealth or status had protected someone important and then continued to help her own community thrive. Her actions became a model for leadership built on integrity, courage, and empathy. One day, the girl faced a new challenge. A severe storm had damaged crops and homes in the village. The villagers were frightened and unsure of how to respond. Without hesitation, she organized a plan to help those affected. She coordinated efforts to rebuild homes, protect the remaining crops, and provide food for those in need. Her leadership was calm, decisive, and effective, showing everyone that courage was not just about facing enemies, but about facing challenges head-on and helping others through adversity. The boy visited during this time, witnessing her efforts. He felt a deep sense of respect and admiration. He realized that her bravery had expanded beyond survival. It had become a guiding force for the entire community. Her actions inspired him to act in his own life with greater empathy and responsibility. He helped coordinate additional resources from the city, but he also learned that real change came from consistent, small acts of courage and kindness. Over time, the girl's education and leadership skills grew. She became a mentor to many children, teaching them the values of courage, resilience, and community. She encouraged them to face challenges with confidence and to believe that they could make a difference, no matter their circumstances. Her story became a living example of how one person's actions could inspire generations. The boy continued to visit regularly, bringing new ideas, sharing knowledge, and learning from her in return. Their conversations were filled with insights about life, responsibility, and the importance of character. Together, they worked on projects that benefited the village and nearby areas. Combining his resources and her understanding of local needs, their teamwork demonstrated the power of collaboration and mutual respect. The village slowly transformed into a place of hope, resilience, and inspiration. People learned to rely on one another, support each other, and face difficulties with courage. The girl's influence was evident in every corner of the village, from the children learning in newly built classrooms to families helping one another rebuild after challenges. Her story showed that true leadership and bravery could come from anyone, regardless of their background. As years passed, the girl's reputation as a fearless and compassionate leader continued to grow. She inspired not only her village, but also neighboring communities. People began to understand that courage was not limited to heroic moments, but could be seen in everyday actions, helping someone in need, standing up for what is right, making thoughtful decisions in difficult situations. The boy's life also changed profoundly. He became more grounded, compassionate, and aware of the responsibilities that came with privilege. He carried the lessons from the village into his work, using his resources to make a positive impact while valuing courage and character above all else. He never forgot the girl who had protected him, taught him, and inspired him to be better. Together, they continued to build a legacy of courage, trust, and community. The village became a place where bravery, empathy, and intelligence were celebrated. And the story of a simple girl who had changed the life of a tycoon's son became a tale told for generations. It reminded everyone that ordinary people could do extraordinary things, and that true courage came from the heart, guided by intelligence, compassion, and determination, even as the years went by. The bond between the boy and the girl remained unbroken. They shared a deep understanding that life's greatest lessons often come from the simplest actions. Their story, rooted in danger, survival, and bravery, had evolved into a testament to the power of trust, courage, and human spirit. It was a story that would continue to inspire anyone who heard it, showing that one person's courage could change not only a life, but an entire community and beyond.